advancement within our careers in technology. So before we begin this session, please, if everyone could just stand up. Let's all stand up, please. Don't worry about the speakers. Y'all good. Y'all relax. I need y'all to relax. All right. So with your right hand, put your right hand up. Make a triangle with your right hand. Make a triangle with your right hand. All right, put that down. With your left hand, make a circle. Now, simultaneously, make a triangle with your right hand and a circle with your left hand. I'm seeing quite a few of y'all struggling. What's going on? I'm seeing double circles. I said a triangle with the right hand and a circle with the left hand. If there's someone that could do that successfully, just come front. Let me see you, because I'm seeing a whole lot of double circles. Anyone? No one?
I don't think your brain can do that.
You got it? Come on, let me see you. Let me see you, bro. He claims to have it. I don't know. My brain personally doesn't work like that. What's your name, bro? Yamalet? All right, bro, come on. Right here in the middle. Let me see you do it. Let's make some noise for him. At the same time, bro. He got it or no? He got it? Nah, that said no. I'm gonna let one other person. Oh, so she's trying to cheat. One last person. At the same.
Oh, I see.
Okay. She got it or no? She got it?
I need some more angles on that triangle.
He said it's not a triangle, it's more like a diamond. All right, let's make some noise. All right. So, and you all can sit down. In this session today, we'll be focused on the balance of security, user experience, and growth in product design. As you guys saw, it is easy to do just one thing at a time, the triangle or the circle, but balancing both sides and doing them simultaneously is difficult. And within this presentation, we have some amazing speakers that will be helping us to understand secure, user-centric design. First of all, let's give it up. Let's give it up for the speakers that we have here. Amazing women. So we have Courtney Walker, Miranda Stanfield, Justice Collier, Candice Knight, and with this session will be moderated by Marjorie McClennan.
Yeah.
Marjorie McClennan. So please, let's make some noise. Okay. You know, although we're at a tech conference, sometimes there's still technical difficulties. I don't know how many tech personalities we need in the room for there to be zero technical problems. But hey, we're still figuring it out. All right, then please.
Well, thank you.
Take
That
us
was
off.
a really great introduction. I hope to make you proud. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marjorie McClennan. As has been shared, I'll be today's moderator. As a quick introduction as to why I'm here with these wonderful ladies is I'm a consultant by trade based out of Houston, Texas, and for the past 15 years, H-Town. For the past 15 years, I've been doing financial services consulting for tech companies. So a lot of what we talk about today, I try to help tech companies monetize. Now, I was told to be really clear about this. This panel has a combined, not individual, combined 40 years of experience. We don't want to be ageist. We don't want to age anyone. But I share that because you're about to get a master class in really that beautiful intersection between product design, security, and making a user-centric product. Now, I don't want to shortchange these ladies, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Candice, you want to get us started?
Yes, hi everyone. I am Candice Knight. I am here from Atlanta by way of Houston, Texas as well. I am a product leader currently at Twilio, which is the world's leader in customer communications as a service. I've got 15 years of experience in product management, leading teams in infrastructure, cloud platforms, payments, and most recently developer experience at Twilio.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Walker. I actually live in the DMV area, but I'm originally from Jackson, Mississippi. Is anybody from Mississippi? No? Dang. Okay. Well, I am a security product manager. I work mainly in retail, in the retail space. I've worked for several global and national omni-channel chains. So I work mainly within, excuse me, application security, infrastructure modernization, heavy on the PCI compliance. I also work as a GRC product manager for some products, as well as kind of alternating between some different compliance projects with our other product and development teams as well. So I have several years of experience working in that field. I've also worked for startups. I've built some SaaS products from the ideation phase as well. So my experience is a little bit across the board. But right now I focus mainly on product security, again, mainly PCI DSS, payment compliance, governance risk and compliance, like at the enterprise level. So happy to be here today.
All right, I'm Miranda Stanfield. I have been in GovTech since right out of college, so that would be about 13, 14 years ago. I started off in project management, went into cybersecurity, and now within the cybersecurity space, I work in the GRC sector. Additionally, I have founded MBS Stack Tech, which is our mission and vision is to really change the color of tech through education of cybersecurity and IT. And I'm currently a PhD student earning my cybersecurity leadership degree as well. Yeah, so I'm so excited to be here, and I thank you all for being here as well.
Hello, you guys. My name is Justice Collier. I am a principal UI UX designer. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, but I currently reside in Dallas, Texas. I pretty much worked in the government space starting out and worked my way into fintech. So I was at USDA, CDC, PayPal, State Farm, US Bank, Bank of America. I got a list of companies I worked for. I'm also the owner of Techpreneurship Academy. So I teach people how to get into tech contracting with a degree or without a degree. And I'm happy to be here.
Okay. Well, I was just given a clicker, so good luck to all of us. But to start off the conversation, thank you all for that wonderful introduction. I think it would be really great to frame this conversation with talking a little bit more, and I'd love to hear from everyone. What are the hallmarks of really creating a user-centric, security-based product?
Great question. Great question. So from the product management perspective, I think the hallmark of creating a really great, delightful user experience that balances security is to automate and integrate everything seamlessly into the user workflows. Look for ways to abstract users from the unnecessary friction, while also making sure that you're educating them on why it is that you're doing what you're doing, so that they can fully understand the benefits that's not only to your company, but also to them.
Thank you. My answer may be similar to Candace. She and I actually used to work together at a large global retail chain as well in product management. But I would agree. I think for me, the hallmark essentially is when you can collaborate with all parties involved to build these products. Again, at the design of it, I think that you are setting yourself up better to have a better user-centric product. But I would look at from the security perspective, and I work in identity and access management, something like Okta that is able to actually integrate more of the robust security into their MFA. So actually being able to kind of have more intuitive security measures where they can actually kind of tell your user behaviors and kind of assess any changes in those and be able to adapt quickly. For me, the user doesn't even experience that, but you get the understanding and the experience of knowing that your identity is safe because on the back end, Okta has taken those kind of steps to make sure that it's more robust. So for me, it's a little bit more involved, like in the whole collaborative process as well.
Okay, I'll go next. So because I've worked in the government technology field for a while, understanding for me in my industry that the government is pretty slow. So for us, we are always in a space of catching up. So for example, AI, right? And so my thought process in a streamlined user experience is really integrating cybersecurity or security within the SDLC lifecycle. And so at every single step, although there's going to be some push and pull when it comes to change, users, as you begin to develop or implement the product, and with security in mind, users are more likely to adapt to that versus just at the tail end of the integration when you're really actually rolling out to users. There's more pushback there, but I think integrating it along with the SDLC process, I really think that's where we really create that streamlined process, and it's much easier for users to adapt to.
I have to agree. I'll definitely say also putting your users first before you're thinking about designing anything, and also collaborating with your security team first before you even think about doing any type of designs, because you don't know what your limitations are, you don't know what users are used to, what's new in the market, and by just identifying those new things that are coming out, I think that helps out a lot.
Well, thank you. I heard a lot about secure by design. I heard SDLC. I really think that's a really great way to start the conversation, because I feel like I hear a lot about, well, why don't you just make it secure by default? And I'm sure they want to know, right? What does that actually mean, and how do you actually accomplish that? So Justice and Miranda, with your respective user experience and security backgrounds, would love to hear your perspective on how do you really start the SDLC from that perspective.
Okay, so when it comes to secure by default, you want to make sure, like I said before, putting those users first and making sure you're learning your design limitations. So when you're starting out, always talk to your cybersecurity team. Be like, hey, I plan on doing X, Y, and Z. What can I do and what can I not do, knowing moving forward, so we won't have roadblocks in the future or blockers that users you may not even know about as well. Some of the stuff too is also simplify the authentication process. They're like passwordless, touch or fingertips, anything that can manage your accounts, like with the passwords, something like that when it comes to secure by design.
So with the industry or the part of cybersecurity that I currently work in, which is governance, risk management, and compliance. And so although we may put our users first, users aren't necessarily, they don't really adapt or actually enjoy that aspect of it, because there's so many things that go into that thought process and when you're building out a product. So yes, we want to put our users first, but sometimes you just got to push the user across the finish line, because hey, this is how we stay secure. So in my mind and in my industry, it's always about being compliant, identifying any risk with implementation of a system or product, and then how do we govern ourselves? What are the policies we're going to follow? So for me, there are all types of different ways in which we can include security, but what is the best option across the board, whether it's users in mind or not? What is the best thing for our organization?
That's, beautifully said. And you brought up an interesting point about just the difference between, whether you have maybe a commercial client versus a government client or user, however you want to think about it, and really the differences, right, that come with that. Which kind of brings us to an interesting perspective, because when I think of government employees, and this is no shade, if you're a government employee here, we love you, thank you for your work, but I feel like there's a hesitancy, there's a lot of friction, and when I think of security at the outset, I also think a lot of friction. So, Courtney and Candace, myth or fact, does security bring friction to the SDLC? We want to know.
I can start with that. Excuse me. I don't have any government experience, so I hear Miranda say sometimes about like the hesitancy or maybe the slow to catch up, maybe speed there. For me, again, working in the retail space and specifically working within like payment security, we have a literally like zero tolerance for being compliant and being, liable to not only our customers, but the bodies that regulate us as well. Anything that we do that compromises that, we lose access to card payments, and that means that companies cannot get paid. So with that, there obviously is can be some friction, but I think specifically in payment security, it's an assumption that maybe more security inherently means more friction. But what I have found with working with teams is that you can really overcome that by focusing on like early adoption of those security practices as well. Working with the product management teams, working with the engineers early on, I have a really unique, I think, position now. So I am a GRC product manager, but what that means for me is I get to work with all of the cybersecurity engineering teams to actually push out initiatives to the product development teams. And so if that looks like for them, right now we need better identity and access features, then I'm working with those teams individually to get that implemented. If that means that we need to incorporate more vulnerability scanning earlier into the CI/CD process, then I'm working with those teams to make sure that their code is being pushed through GitLab, wherever we need to, so that we can actually start scanning and finding any type of issues early on. Also incorporating any type of SAST policies into their development as well. Again, anything that we can do like earlier to find and remediate and catch things, because the biggest issue is, I think the friction comes from the rebuild or the rework. It doesn't necessarily come from, you know, what you're doing up front. If teams are informed, they're aware, if I can work with product managers and get that on their roadmap early on, if I can get a good estimate of how long it's gonna take, I can let my team know, okay, this is how long we may be at, you know, a level of exposure or risk, but this is how long it's gonna take them to get it done. Then it's less friction, I think, when you can collaborate, communicate, and just get it done as early as possible.
That's an excellent point. And one thing I want to call out that I hear is that we're saying that security is more friction, but that is actually an assumption that we make. So from the product management perspective, it is really critical that we state and challenge our assumptions, especially as it relates to user experience. And so what I would want to say about the friction piece is that we often make the assumption that customers or users might not continue in our processes, or that they might not find our experiences to be delightful because we might inject security practices that they may or may not understand. I think the best way to actually challenge and validate those assumptions is through experimentation. And so what I like to do as I think about how to balance security friction is to test those assumptions through experiments. As a product manager, I love to be wrong. I love when I find something new that our users have something new about their behaviors or something new about the perspectives. And so just a really quick story. When building the Twilio sign-up funnel, as a company, we're a very highly regulated company. A lot of compliance that we have to look out for, and we're often under attack from various fraudsters and have a lot of abuse. And so we found that we were having a struggle with account takeover. Because our trial accounts were not secured with 2FA. So of course, wanting to protect our customers, we decided to put 2FA in the sign-up funnel. I originally assumed, hey, that's gonna be detrimental to our funnel. Customers aren't gonna wanna enter in OTP passwords the second that they're signing up. They usually like to get directly to your user experiences first. And so set up an experiment and ran a couple different treatments that included educating users on why it's really important for you to actually go into our experiences having that 2FA already set up. And what I found is that not only was there not a decrease in conversion rates, which was the key metric that I was looking for, but we also ultimately ended up seeing a decrease in account takeovers later on. So I say that to say, when it comes to friction, from the product perspective, it's really, really important that we challenge all of the assumptions that we have about what our users find to be friction and what may or may not be a showstopper for them.
Well, with that said, I think what you're saying is that it's a myth. Security does not mean friction. But I love that point, and I really enjoyed hearing about experimentation. I think running experiments can be really helpful, right, for all users, right, to understand certainly how your users are ingesting the product, but also can help to maybe get engagement, right, from your internal stakeholders. Because I know trust can be a difficult thing to establish, certainly with users, but also with internal parties. So really would love to hear from Miranda and Justice on this. How do you guys go about driving trust, right, both internally and externally when you're building something?
So internally and externally. So really, in mind, the government, right? The assumption is, right, Candace, that you really can't trust the government, right? So that's as regards to external users or, just the public. And unfortunately, that's like a part that we are really trying to change. And we may put out certain type of like LinkedIn posts or really try to engage the public with understanding, hey, this is what the government is trying to do. We're trying to keep you safe. We're trying to, maybe fight off our adversaries. But the important thing to note is that the government is actually trying. So I think for internally too is, I like the point of the pilot or the experimental piece of it. I've learned that when we did pilot or when we used, so I'll say this, the very first time we did a pilot, unfortunately, it was full of people that were on the technical and security side. And of course, they loved it. It's their thing. But the next time we went and did a pilot, it was from various groups internally. And so that's where we engaged and received the feedback and the surveys, and we tried to implement things that would actually, decrease the friction in there. So I think that unfortunately, with the government externally to the public, is that there is a conceived notion that, hey, we can't trust the government. But internally, as those who are employed or contracted to the government, and I'm inside, looking in, but we really try to make sure that we are doing the best we can for every user, whether you are the custodian that may be using timekeeping, all the way up to directors and CIOs, and their experience as well, and making sure that we kind of meet them in the middle, that everyone generally will have a pretty good experience.
Okay, so for me, when it comes to internal trust, mine's gonna be a little bit different because with design, we have to make sure we have certain procedures in place. So first, I like to say is creating a design system so that way your team members, your marketing team, whoever you work with, have access to any elements or components that they need in order to trust what's going on with the company. Second is making sure accessibility, that if you have somebody that's disabled or you have visual impairment, all that stuff, make sure that they are being thought about in the design process. And then another thing too internally is using collaborative tools like Figma to make sure that, okay, your not stakeholders, but your developers and your managers and your BAs or whoever have access to your files so they can check your progress and see how everything is looking. As for external, I will have to say probably conducting some user interviews to figure out what the users are looking for, what they need, listen to their pain points, and also do some tree testing to see what are their clicks are like how many clicks does it take to get X, Y, and Z? How can we minimize those clicks? Another thing externally too is conduct their usability testing, testing out those prototypes to see, okay, what are their thoughts? Do they like it? Do they not like it? Let's do some A/B testing to see, okay, can we compare it to another application, a competitor, something like that. That's how you get the trust.
Okay, well said. Well, with that in mind, what I'd like to, I feel like we've, really kind of talked about this from a utopian perspective, like product comes together and security comes together and then there's a circle and there's kumbaya and everybody loves each other. But I don't know how often that really actually happens. So what maybe I got a couple chuckles. So what I really would love to understand, like when you look at that Spider-Man meme and you see everybody pointing a finger at each other, who should really be championing security? And I'm going to ask the product owners this question.
So I actually think it's everyone's role on a product team to champion security, but I actually find that the product managers who should be held accountable, and I'll explain. I don't think that it's just an engineer's job to make sure that the security findings and vulnerability tickets and things are addressed in a timely manner. I think it's the product manager's job to make sure that you're equally prioritizing those things the same way you would the shiny new feature that you're really excited about. I don't think it's just an architect's job to design secure systems. I think it's the product manager's job to make sure that you're bringing the right stakeholders to the table before you ever write a single product requirement. And that should always include your security partners, your security experts, the internal teams that you'll work with to make sure that you understand the rules, the guidelines, the things that you need to watch out for as you're building those lovable product experiences. And so I would say to product managers specifically, make sure that you're including security as a part of your product strategy. Make sure that you're setting metrics for security the same way you would any of the other business metrics and outcomes that you're looking to manage to drive growth, to drive product adoption, and hold yourself and your team accountable to those.
Is anyone in here a product manager? Candace, you're gonna make some people mad. I did not expect her to say that, but that's an interesting perspective.
I love a good racy chart, so we are accountable.
Yeah, I didn't expect her to say that. Okay. So I would say, I mean, I do agree definitely that it's everyone's role. But I think even to that question of like, you know, who's accountable, I think the larger thing is like, what is the impact if we all don't take that accountability? I mean, for most organizations or for all organizations, we see it, we've all been impacted by it. As customers, we're always getting those emails about data breaches and your information has been exposed. We're all looking for our little coin that they're gonna give us back when it happens. But that kind of situation lends to, again, company-wide risk, which could be financial, which could mean loss of jobs for people within the organization. If, you know, the company is having to pay X millions of dollars out because of data breaches, that means that that's less money organization-wide to keep some roles in place. And so I think that it's everyone's responsibility, but I also think that some departments maybe can champion a little bit more. Now, I think product managers owning it is great, but I also think that for the everyday product manager, like even if I think about when I was working on products that absolutely, from my perspective, maybe had nothing to do with security. I'm looking at, you know, getting these cool features out. I'm looking at, you know, pushing this to market as soon as possible. I may not even be aware. It's like I don't know what I don't know. And so I think that's where, you know, security as a whole comes in. So again, like just the security department, all of us hate to do those, you know, little assessments that you have to, you know, hurry up and get your security, you know, assessments in or whatever. That's important. But for me, in my department, what we have done is start actually taking product teams out, doing a little bit of experimentation with them, like breaking down what can actually happen as a security incident to your product so that you can see the actual risk associated with it, so that they can it's not just like, oh, I'm just taking this test, like, yeah, I understand, you know, this is, you know, and so it helps them understand more the exact risk that they could be exposed to. So I think that it is organization-wide. I think it's also at the leadership level. If leadership doesn't champion security within an organization, that's a trickle-down effect. But they also have to understand the risks that are associated with it. So I think that it's everybody's job, but I really appreciate Candace's perspective on the product manager job.
It feels like you don't, but I'm just gonna. I'm not. Y'all are picking up on that, right? I don't know. She appreciates it.
I might feel away. Like, I mean, yeah. This is my fault.
No, I'm teasing. Justice Miranda, anything you all would like to add just from your own perspectives? Do you all agree? Is it everybody's role or is it really security's role? This is a safe space.
It's definitely everybody's role. We all got to take part in this. But our goal is just make sure we communicate effectively as designers to understand what we can and can't do. Because if not, it's going to come back and bite us, and we don't want that problem.
Okay. Well, with that said, I know we want to get to questions, so I have one last question for you all, and then we can turn it over to the audience. There's so much talk about new technology, what's next. I would love for each of you to share with the audience, what are some innovative ways to iterate? What is next when it comes to innovation as it relates to a user-centric product design, as well as security?
That is a great question. So I think from my perspective, outsourcing to the experts tends to be something that I think works very well when your core competency for the products that you support is not security itself. So I really believe that looking to some of the industry leaders, the Oktas, the Googles, the Microsoft, when it comes to things like user authentication and outsourcing to that, allows you to take advantage of the innovative opportunities that they are able to more closely focus on while you get to build out the product experiences that drive your business forward and are aligned with your own strategy.
Candace said get somebody else to do it.
Basically,
No, so
find somebody else.
for me, so for my organization, I think we are trying to keep afloat, with kind of being on top of the innovation. We've started using AI to incorporate large language models into like our incident response, but I think that if we are able to be more proactive in using like AI in the early threat detection or fraud detection stage to kind of analyze those threat behaviors like ahead of time. So I think just being more proactive about how we are using AI in order to, again, it cuts down on the time to remediate, the time to detect, it cuts down on, some of the resources, unfortunately, of people, but it does allow companies to be more safe. So I think just being able to leverage like those type of capabilities earlier on, instead of just responding to incidents, being able to detect them earlier.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that. I have the same thought process there with AI. It is one of the most innovative things that is occurring right now, and it's moving extremely fast. From the government perspective, we are actually trying to catch up. But I do love the idea at some point with the federal government and us implementing AI. But again, it goes back to GRC. Is it safe? What are the risks associated with that? And just things like that. But I do think that predictive models, when it comes to threat detection or anything like that, any anomalies in your system, that I think that's very helpful. Again, I mean, a lot of people may say this, but they say that the human is the weakest link in cybersecurity. And so unfortunately, that is the case. A lot of humans may just miss something or make a mistake, but we would have AI to really kind of alert humans or the individuals within that space to help with the predictive modeling and what could potentially happen next and what are our risks associated with that. So AI.
All right, I know everybody keeps saying AI, but I have to agree too. I'm not gonna lie, I use it often. So when it comes to pretty much the design side, definitely using AI in your design process. It kind of help us understand, okay, what is the new way of doing certain things? Like now, for example, I have a project. We're trying to integrate the fingerprint method on everything that we're doing because it's easier for our clients. So figuring out what's new in the market, what are people liking, what are they trying to do, and collaborating with our teams to figure out how can we make the product better for our users.
Okay, well, I guess we didn't all watch The Terminator. We're all on board. Just kidding. But with that said, I definitely want to save some time for first audience questions. So any questions in the audience? Okay, we're starting off strong.
This is a question for all the ladies on the panel. I'm trying to see who said something about getting that engagement. Okay, you said something about getting that engagement from the stakeholders. So do y'all think silos is an issue? And then also, from everyone's different perspective, because in Agile, they talk about being able to collaborate and get a viewpoint for the same issue from people who have different skills, roles, and backgrounds. How do y'all address that issue? How vital do you think, and how much of an impact do having silos have, adverse, and do you think there's a benefit behind it?
I'll take that one.
Okay. It's you.
Well, yeah. So I think that silos always play a factor in any product team's ability to build something. There's always going to be multiple stakeholders within an organization when you're building. When it comes to how you break down those silos, one of my favorite things that I've seen is security teams organizing active campaigns for collectively secure. So helping to drive clarity across all of the individual teams, creating the processes for how do you engage security? When do I engage security? How do I make sure that we got the right sign-offs? And so I think a really clear process, artifacts, checkpoints, and milestones is the best way to make sure that the teams who are off working on their own things on a day-to-day basis can stay aligned on keeping security at the forefront.
And I'll just add one quick thing. I think that if you recognize that maybe you all are working within silos, because it's easy to do that. Everybody wants to be the SME. You are protective over your product if you're on a product team, et cetera. But sometimes when I engage with product teams about security issues, they will say, well, yeah, we knew we needed to do this. And it's like, if you know something or if you see something, say something, because if you're in the silo, it may take us a year to get around to your team to, talk about this. But if you recognize that, be more proactive in breaking that up. So don't just expect, other teams to come out to you, but like kind of go out. When you see issues, when you see things, just say things, and it'll probably break that barrier down for other teams as well.
And I would just add, from a consultant perspective, maybe try going to the person who doesn't speak up and seeing what they want to say. Maybe they're holding on to information. I think if you proactively are like, hey, I notice you're quiet, or hey, I haven't heard from you on something, sometimes they may have a treasure trove of information. They're just maybe have apathy, atrophy, whatever it may be to the process. So maybe trying to be more proactive with the more silent partners.
I'll say this. When I was working at the bank, we had monthly check-ins of like, hey, is there anything you guys want to talk about? Or if you want to say something, you can drop it in anonymously. So that normally helps too, because some people don't want to be like, hey, I don't want to say what I got to say and my name attached to it. So we had like a little anonymous thing in Jira where you could just drop it in there and then we'll discuss it in the meeting. And then you don't even have to say who you were, but we'll just talk about it and see how can we make things better.
I'm gonna age myself here, but this made me think of the honesty box feature on Facebook. That's immediately what I thought of, but I know nothing from the audience. It's okay. Next question. No, it's fine. Go ahead, Miranda. I'm sorry.
No, I don't give him a chance to question. No, go ahead.
You good?
Okay. All right, appreciate y'all. Thank you for each and every one of you's time. I think it was really insightful. I think the audience can agree as well. One of the questions I was thinking about, we talked about AI as we were going to the end of the session, and as we think about adopting AI, one of my thoughts is from a strategic lens, what will be the complexities when you bring it in from a product perspective, but on the flip side of that, the security space as well?
So for me, I'll speak from the security side, is that so OpenAI, right, ChatGPT, that is public. Like, that is an open source. So for me, choosing the right AI product for security is really thinking about security, because AI is so new, right? And even from the government perspective, we actually don't have AI within our system yet. Within our enterprise, because it's so new, and we really need to understand, okay, how do we use this? And remember, there's a lot of confidential information that is used, people may type into the system. We have to be so secure in the mindset that, hey, we have to make sure this product is actually safe, the privacy is safe, the risk, we have to understand the risk with this. Because I will say too, I have been in a meeting and someone was caught taking minutes with AI, and it's like, did you read the terms and conditions? Like, where is this information being held? So I think it's so important from the security's perspective. Yes, we want to use AI. Ideally, it sounds great, but we have to make sure that it's actually secure.
For my company, because we do actively use it, but obviously it's not just a free-for-all. However, I think in terms of, you mentioned maybe like how to incorporate it or how to strategize around it, a good way that I think companies will kind of have some buy-in or get behind it are like hackathons or like different projects where you can kind of work on it and introduce it as a project to the organization, kind of let them know what some of the issues that you found. When we have hackathons, someone from security, someone from product, someone from risk, et cetera, all kind of sit in on exactly what occurred during this project so that we can understand the risks as an organization. But I think it starts with maybe, if you just kind of want to be like an early adopter, you kind of want to be on the team of maybe introducing it, maybe kind of, suggest like hackathons or things like that where you all can kind of just play around with something with, trusted tools from the organization where it's not going to impact the actual product or the actual day-to-day of the company, but allow you to kind of work on a side project, especially for the small enough company where you have some reach or impact, or maybe, someone can kind of see it. So it's good for you, but then it's also good for the organization as well.
Hello.
Next question.
I wanted to ask kind of a similar question like the gentleman up front said, but with the rapid growth of AI and increasing human reliance on it, do you think it has the potential to disrupt jobs in tech, particularly within government sectors?
Yes.
y'all don't even have it yet. How can it disrupt your
But,
job?
but I know, I mean, so I'll just say this, and my thought process is that I've seen what has already occurred. I'm using the data that's already out there. Yes, I mean, a job like mine, right? Although I may use AI as a tool, there still has to be a human involved understanding like, oh, okay. But I'm not really using AI to say, hey, write a security policy. Like, I'm not going to do that. But I think that within the organization, yeah, people are going to use AI for sure. And maybe it may be sales or maybe be marketing and coming up with those type of ideas. Maybe some jobs will be lost there because you just kind of not needed. I mean, I've seen AI robots like doing lashes, doing nails, making drinks. Like, I mean, seriously, like that's. I mean, think of the future. You really have to think, what job does a human doesn't necessarily have to be there to do?
I could see that because I could say for us in the UX department, we stopped dealing with content writers. We use AI to use for content writing and then like also to do like information architectures. So anything dealing with architecture and content writers, we're like, oh, we could save money on that.
I think my perspective is the rate at which we're innovating with AI is the rate at which we're coming up with new and innovative jobs. And so maybe some of the jobs of the past won't still be there, but there are going to be jobs of the future that we haven't even conceptualized yet as we start to really unlock the potential in the future that AI can bring. I know that when I was thinking about what I was going to be when I grew up, content creator wasn't a thing. So if you think about how technology has come in and shaped the landscape of not just individual products that we use on a day-to-day basis, but the way in which we work, you can expect that a lot of jobs will become obsolete, but at the same rate, we will find that there are new jobs. We need people who know how to build and train the AI. We need, now we're getting to a place where you actually need people who are really skilled at how to even write AI prompts. As we recognize that, we want to become more accurate and we want more fidelity in the answers. So I would say, yes, jobs will go away, but we can also look forward to new jobs coming into the landscape.
1,000% agree. And just like another quick thing, also most of these companies cannot iterate fast enough like for it to be a major impact on your job. Probably in the next couple of years, they're still using legacy systems, legacy code, infrastructure still hasn't caught up. So I'm just saying, yes, the new roles are coming and we should always be, especially working in tech, you should always be upskilling and learning what's occurring, but also there's always going to have to be somebody to do the job. And also your company probably isn't even caught up enough to just get rid of people to use AI at this point anyway. We're still using a bunch of legacy systems, so yeah.
So yeah, please, let's give it up for the amazing panel. So I know there were a couple people in the crowd that still had questions. If people would like to follow up with you all, what's the best way to get in contact?
I'll say for me, mine is Instagram and LinkedIn. My Instagram is technically JAI. And then my LinkedIn was up there, but I don't know.
Yeah, our codes were up there. I don't know if anybody noticed them or
Yeah, did y'all get the codes?
Yeah.
No?
But yeah, if you all want to come, we can
Chat.
Yeah. Our codes should be on each of our.
There we go.
Here we go.
There's Courtney code.
Courtney. That was too fast.
You put that thing down.
I'm not even touching it anymore.
All right. Give like a second.
Got it.
Everybody got Courtney code? Yeah. All right, now let's go to the next one.
I'm just pressing their two buttons.
There go Miranda's. Oh.
Oh, you got it. Okay. Great. Beautiful.
Thank you kindly.
Technology.
That's Miranda's code. I'm screaming.
How many tech professionals does it take?
No, pass. All right, let's go. I don't know how that happened. It don't like that on my computer. It don't look like that on my computer. I don't know how to figure it out.
All right, I think that is everyone. So please, let's give them a round of applause. Give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. So for